One of the most profitable food business ideas to run in 2020 is a home-based food business, or as it's known, a cottage food business. And in this video, I will give you all the information you need to know to get your food business, your home-based bakery or candy business in the state of Utah up and running, and we're going to get over that right now. All right, so in the state of Utah, it can be a hugely profitable business to start from home. And for the biggest reason is, well, it's actually from your home. And that is the minimal investment right off the bat. When I started my retail bakery, of course, one of the most biggest expenses for us, my wife and I, was actually our rent. Using your home as a small business to begin with is really genius, if you ask me. And the multitude of tax benefits are enormous. So double check also with your accountant about your home-based food business. So before we dive into the 6 steps to get up and running, make sure, I always recommend my 2 cents, if you will, is to make sure you get yourself incorporated and have food business insurance, okay? And if you're not incorporated or if you haven't done that yet, creating an LLC is super simple. You can actually do it through inkfile.com. And down in the description, we actually got a link for you there. You can actually check into Inkfile. I think they also have a special going. I think it's 0 cost plus state fees if you check out that link to get signed up to create your incorporation. So, all right, so let's jump right into it. I'm going to give you 6 different steps, and then I'm going to go over a handful of information. Also, in the description below, I'll give you some links to some resources for the state of Utah to kind of help you understand even more also about what you can do and what you can't do, okay? Now, the one thing that's really unique, of course, cottage food business, you're allowed to create food from home, but not all kinds of foods, okay? So it has to be a potentially non-hazardous food product, which means that there's either, it can't be a time or temperature sensitive product if it's got meat in it, cheeses, or if it has to be refrigerated. There's a handful of stipulations in every state. It's always a little different. But in Utah, of course, it has its own laws and regulations as well. So the one thing about Utah that's really kind of different is the application process is a bit challenging, let's say, to get a business up and running in Utah. It's got a handful of steps to do before you can even begin to make your food product. You have to have a business license. You also need to get a food handler training. You got to get a home inspection and a cottage food product application, okay? Which actually that food product application includes details written like similar to what the recipes are. If you have also any testing that needs to be done for your product as well. Now, the business license application's a little bit over $100, not very expensive, but definitely something that you do have to do, so you have to get that business license as well, okay? But now, one of the great things, though, is once you get through all these hoops, once you get up and running, they have a lot. You can actually have, there's no limit on the revenue. Some states limit the amount of money that you can make, so they have a lot of benefits to that, too. So step 1, the business legality side. As I just mentioned, make sure you get the business license. Get your food handler training. Make sure you get that inspection of the home. It's going to check out your kitchen, where you're making the product and such. So get the business side of it done. Also, a lot of states don't require this, but having food business insurance. And I'm going to get to that in a couple of minutes. I'll go into detail about that on step 5. So step 1, business legality. Got it. Step 2, where can you sell? That's a big question. So it's pretty open in Utah. It actually has a lot of different venues in different places. You can definitely do state events, public events like fairs or festivals. Now, you can also do sales online, but it has to be delivered in person. And it has to be within the state, okay? So remember that. You got farmers markets, retail stores, which is actually fantastic. This is a great way to get opportunity and experience as a food business entrepreneur when you're starting from home. You can sell to retail stores. You can also sell directly from your home if you're comfortable with that. Having people come to your home is allowed. Roadside stands, also fantastic. There's a lot of those, and of course, you may or may not have to also get a specific permit for that, so keep that in mind. That's a little different. In some states, it requires additional permit to sell at roadside stands. Now, so next up, number 3, the types of food. So what is actually allowed? What can you sell? Great question. Number one, cotton candy, fudge, chocolates, brittles, bread items or baked items such as cookies, tortillas and breads, biscuits and cakes, brownies and bagels, donuts. I mean, there's a huge list for this. They also have seasonings, spices and herbs and mixes and blends and cereals. You can even sell cones, pies, and pastries. But some of those are limited only because you can't do that when you have cheeses and such involved, okay? So the list for that is quite extensive. And you can also do nuts and seeds. You can do, which is great because you can roast them if you've got a seasoned nut recipe and you think you can make a good amount of money with that during the farmer's market season. Definitely do that. Granola, popcorn, caramel corn, chocolate covered items, crackers and pretzels, as I mentioned, even handmade gourmet marshmallows. That's fantastic as well. Those are hugely profitable food products because they cost very little to make. All right, now step 4, restrictions. So what are some of the limitations or restrictions, as some people may say? So the one thing definitely, when you're preparing food products that you're going to sell locally, you can't be making dinner or lunch or what's known as domestic activity. You got to limit that because you can't be doing the two things at the same time in the same kitchen when you're going to sell the food product, okay? Obviously, the other thing, pets. If you have pets, great, but if you have them, you need to put them away. They cannot be in the area where you're going to be producing your food product. Interstate sales. This is another one. You can't sell a product outside of Utah under a cottage food law. You have to be in a commercial setting. Commercial kitchen. So obviously, this is kind of a no-brainer. If you're under the cottage food law, you can't produce a product in a commercial kitchen and claim that it's made in a home kitchen. You got to definitely not do that. If you're going to do one or the other, it cannot be both. You can't be in one facility and produce it in the next. So, also commercial equipment. You can't get oversized or large mixing, let's say bread mixers or dough mixers, and put that in the middle of your kitchen. Okay, so those types of things are not allowed at all as well. So those are there's very limited restrictions. There's not a heck of a lot. Some of it's really just common sense, right? So step 5 is food insurance and auto insurance. Now, this is something that's not necessarily required or it's stated on the Utah's cottage food, but I highly recommend to protect yourself, get a food producer's insurance policy. That's going to protect you for like a general liability, for ingredients, for food products. If someone were to get sick and you didn't have that, you could pose a serious problem for your finances. The other thing is a lot of people don't think about, but auto commercial insurance. So if you're using a vehicle of your own as a business vehicle, you're going to an event, you're packing up your stuff, and you're going someplace, you're using that for business purposes. Check to see on commercial auto insurance policies to see if that is a policy that would be better suited for what you're using your vehicle for than just a traditional car insurance. Okay? Step 6, label, logo, and brand. So if you're going to be doing this from home, know that eventually your biggest goal is to get out of your house, obviously, and maybe produce it in a commercial setting, sell it online, be on Amazon, be on Etsy or eBay or something like that. And if you're in the retail stores, the same thing. So if you start off early and focus on your brand, how are you creating? What's your brand identity? What's your logo going to look like? How is your label going to look with your product on there, okay? And if you're not creative, that's fine. You can actually check down below in the description section. I will actually put a link to Fiverr.com, and there's actually graphic designers there who could create logos for you. That's also going to be there as well. I've actually used them myself for over about 12 or 13 different times, and they're fantastic. So let's talk really quick about the business license. So operators must also have a business license, okay? You could do a DBA or you could do doing business as. So they're about $30 or so for that type of a license, but definitely want to incorporate yourself. I would recommend it big time. Now, the other thing that's maybe cost you some money is a private well testing. So if you're on water, that's a private well water, you have to have it tested annually. Now, why? Well, because you're using water, it has to be set at a certain level of cleanliness because you're cleaning utensils, you're cleaning stuff that other people are going to be eating the food products from. They want to make sure your well is functioning properly, okay? Now, let's go over the labeling really quick. This is part of the last section, the label. Now, what is supposed to go on the label? Number 1, your business address, okay? It can't be a P.O. box, by the way. It has to be your home address. You've got to put that on the label. Your business name. If it's Susie's chocolate chip cookies, then that is the name of the product. Plus Susie, if that's the name of your business, that also needs to be on there. So then that has to be on it as well. Ingredients. You definitely need to have your ingredients. Some people may be allergic to a certain ingredient, and you got to have it on there. Now, that means that you need to put everything that's in your product needs to be on the ingredient label. Make sure you do that. The net amount. What is that? That is the amount of the product that is in the packaging minus the packaging weight. So if something's done by weight, if it's a trail mix and it's 1 pound of trail mix, it needs to be 1 pound of product, not counting the packaging. Okay. Phone number. Now you have to have a phone number where you can be reached at. You know, if God forbid someone does get sick or they have to find out where it came from, they need to have a phone number to contact you immediately to know what's going on and where is it from. Okay. The product name, just as I mentioned shortly ago, if it happens to be chocolate chip cookies, then it has to say chocolate chip cookies. Lastly, not every state requires this, but Utah does, a statement of where it's made and the fact that it's not inspected. So not inspected by a state agency if it happens to not be. Some states say that you need to put on there produced at home in a uninspected kitchen, or if it's a son that has an inspection, you let them know that it is inspected by a state agency. Okay? So that is a great tidbit of information to get you started, at least, so you can get some understanding. Check out the links, like I said, down below the video in the description. Open up the drop-down menu there. Check out those additional links for all those other resources, and I'll see you guys. And again, really quick, if you've got more questions about this, let me know, and I'll try to get to it as soon as I can. And I'll see you on the next video. So if you're looking to start your own food business, check out these videos for more resources. Profitable food business ideas, how to start a food truck business, learn all about cottage food laws to create a home business for selling food, and how to start a catering business from home. These and many more small food business ideas are all at your fingertips when you subscribe to Marketing Food Online.